Let's knit some chic fingerless mitts today on Good Knit Kisses. Welcome to Good Knit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. We're knitting fingerless mitts today on the needles, right and left-handed, and we're also knitting it on the knitting loom, either right and left-handed, or you can call it counterclockwise and clockwise. Get that pattern below at the link. For our yarn today, we're working with Red Heart Chic Sheep yarn, and contrast A is Poolside, and contrast B is Mai Tai, and that is for this colorway here. And then for this other one, we are working with color Mai Tai for contrast A and color Green Tea for contrast B. Now, it comes in 3 sizes. We've got the small featured here, and then we also have a medium and a large size, and these are all adult size. You're going to need 4 double pointed needles. These are size US 7 or 4.5 millimeter. And you'll also need a stitch marker and maybe a row counter, and of course your tapestry needle and some scissors. All right, grab your supplies and get your pattern at that link below, and we'll see you in a moment. All right, we're going to start this pattern at the cuff and work our way upward. For all 3 sizes, the techniques are all the same. The only difference is your cast on for whatever size you want, and then when we get to the thumb hole, it'll be a slight change in the number here, so you do want to refer to your pattern on that. Let's begin by casting on. You're going to want a long tail cast on of 28 stitches for the small, 32 for the medium, and 36 for the large. I'm going to cast on with about a foot, or no, almost 2 feet of tail. Put the tail towards you and the ball to the back. I'm not even going to put a slip knot on here, and the way you do that is you just hold it on top and put your finger on there to hold it in place, and we just hold it in our hand here and spread it with our index finger and thumb. We're going to pull back like a slingshot. I'm going to scoop up where my thumb is, and then go down where my finger is, and then down at the thumb again, and then let go of my thumb and pull it nice and snug, and it has got 2 stitches on there. We're just going to continue that technique for all of them. It's a multiple of 4, and we're going to do a 2x2 ribbing. So we're going to scoop up at the thumb, scoop down or go down at the finger, and down to the thumb again, let go and pull it. Make sure that it still can slide nicely. It's not super tight or super loose to where your needle is going to fall off. Let's do it one more time slow. Scoop up at the thumb, down at the finger, down at the thumb again, and let go. For slower videos, I'll give you a link to working in the round. If you want to work in the round with a magic loop and use a circular needle, you can totally do that. I'm just not going to show it in this video here. All right, cast on your stitches and pause your video, and I'll meet you back up for round 1. See you in a moment. Once you've cast on your stitches, we need to connect them in the round and also divide them up on our needles as well. Now, if you're working with the 28, I suggest that you put 8 stitches on the first one, 10 and 10 on the next 2. And then for the 32, you're going to want to do 12 stitches and then 10 and 10. For the 36, just do 12 on all of them. It really matters that the last needle is going to have at least 10 stitches on there. And I like to say do a multiple of 2 on each needle. That way you know that your knit, purl, purl is going to be right for your 2x2 ribbing. So just go ahead and count off. I did 28 on this sample here. So got 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now I'm going to put on my next ones, which is going to be 10. Just going to scoop them off and place them on here. So go ahead and do that. Pause your video as you need, and then I'll show you connecting in the round, a nice little trick so that you don't have that little jog in your knitting. All right, so we have got all of them on, and now I want to make them in the round. So I'm going to get to where they need to be connected and slide my 2 needles. We'll get the stitches at one end. And now I want to make sure that we're not twisting them. So you can see that all the stitches are on the inside here. I'm going to pick off this first stitch. Just kind of hold it with one, with my index finger over here, and then slip off this kind of loose stitch over on this other needle, and then pick up the one with the opposite needle that I was holding. So we're just crisscrossing those first stitches. And then I'm just tightening up my working yarn here to make that stitch that we just finished to be a little bit tighter there. All right, so it is very small, and that's okay. This will end up stretching, and we're going to start on the first round. Now, before we start a round, you can go ahead and stick a stitch marker in so you know where the beginning is. If you have a hard time doing that, of course, you can add that on later. It's just nice to have that beginning part if you're not used to seeing where the beginning of a round is, if this is your first time working in the round. All right, so we're going to begin working that first stitch, and we need a knit as our first stitch. So we got knit, and how I did that is we just stick our needle in and then go around to the back and knit here, and then we're going to purl. So we're going to put our yarn in the front and go in the front of that stitch there, wrap our yarn around and push it through and pull it off. That is our purl stitch. If you need slower videos, again, we've got some references down below for slower videos. All right, so you're going to continue working in the round, knit 2, purl 2, and you're going to work 10 rounds for approximately 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. All right, continue that, pause your video, and I'll see you in a moment. I want to interrupt just for a moment and explain how to turn if you have not worked on DPNs or double pointed needles. When you get to the end of your round, you are going to have a free needle. So that means that needle is going to be empty. All right, so I'm going to finish this one up, and you see you have a new one, and now we only have the 3 on here. I'm going to rotate to the next one, and then I'm going to ignore the one hanging in the back and ignore the one hanging right here. If you need to move this up or down, that's fine. Just make sure that you don't let your stitches fall off. I'm going to take my free needle and move it into my hand, and I'm going to work the stitches toward and then start working my next stitch. Now, sometimes this first one can kind of get in the way, and that's okay. You'll learn your rhythm of how it works best for you. So I'm just going to continue working on my stitches. Also, if you need to unknit your stitches, if you've got them placed in the wrong direction or whatever, you can always go back by sticking in your needle into that previous stitch and then slide it off and then let go. And now it's back on the needle and you can work it in the intended direction. All right, continue and we'll meet you in a moment. All right, so we have been working our cuff in contrast A. I failed to mention that, but we are in contrast A, pull side on this one. And we're going to be working our first part of our zigzag pattern is really what I'm calling it. And we're still going to continue with contrast A first. So we're going to purl this entire row in the same color we've been working. So you're no longer going to be doing the rib part, and the cuff on both sides will be in a 2x2 ribbing. However, they will be in different colors, as you can see on our sample. So continue purling all the way around and meet me back up for round 2. See you in a moment. Round 2 of the zigzag pattern starts working with our next yarn. So we have contrast B coming in my tie. And we will work rounds 2 and 3 in this next color. And the second round that we do of the second color is going to be a setup to get this one back in here. So I'll show you what I mean. So we've just done a round of purls, and I'm telling you this way so that you can kind of remember later why or where to start your new color in what round. So we're going to add on our first color here, or our first color change. And so we're going to add in our yarn on the back and just pull it through, leave a nice little tail, and we're just going to knit that stitch. That's all you do. The next one, the next stitch, we will go and knit 1 below. So we're going to come down below this stitch here, go underneath it into this open stitch, and just knit it. So that is just going to fall off on the back. It slips that yarn back there. Now we're going to knit the next stitch, and it's just repeated around the row. So we're going to go down 1 below, so knit 1 below, work that stitch, and move on to the next. So knit 1 below, continue around. I'll meet you back up for the third round. See you soon. Let's say you make a mistake in the knit one below, and I want to show you how to back up. So say you notice that your sequence is off and you've got some of these extra stitches in the back where they shouldn't be, and it's not going to work out evenly. You're just going to want to stick your needle in and unwork that stitch, unknit that stitch, and go backward until you find where you messed up. Now you're going to find that you have to stick your needle in both of the contrasting color, both loops here, and then pull it off. Well, then what do? So if you've never seen this before, we have this really elongated stitch and then this other one that looks normal. If you want to get it purled back into place, because that's what it was the row before, we're just going to put our opposing a needle over here, put it through, upwards and through, kind of like you're going to purl again. And then you just take this yarn and push it through that loop, pull it off, and then I just slip it back on and I kind of put my needle in through the middle there, and now it's set in the correct place. So I'm just going to continue backing up and see where I need to be. And I can see that I've got one single stitch here and I've got the two double back here. So I know that I need to get back into pattern by knitting one and knitting one below and continue along. All right, so that's how you fix it. And we'll see you at the end of this round to complete this stitch pattern. So we're at the end of this round here, and I've got my my yarn from before. So I'm going to flip this to the back, and I'm going to continue working with my contrast B. I need to put the yarn in front because I need to purl this next round. So remember how I said the setup is a purl? The setup to getting the knit one belows to work out in this zigzag pattern is to have a setup of purl. So here we go. We're going to purl in the same color that we just did. All right, so we're going to purl that first one. And this one is where you want to stop for a moment. Go ahead and pull up your slack here in the back from that very beginning. And then once you get that going, you can stop after a few stitches and your tension should be just fine. And that's stitches locked in. So go ahead and do that round. Pause your video and I will meet you back up for round 4 of the zigzag stitch. See you in a moment. All right, so we're ready to begin on our 4th round. We're going to take contrast B and put it to the back, and then we're going to pull our contrast A from underneath where we just pull back our yarn. So we're going to be working with contrast A again. Work just like we've done before with the knit one below. So that first stitch is going to be knit, and then knit one below, and then knit and knit one below. So you're just going to continue that round. You're just alternating these colors. So every 2 rounds is the same color, and then you'll switch colors. And we're going to be purling one row to set up before we change that color. So now that you know what the 4-round repeat is, you're going to repeat that 7 more times. So in fact, you will see 8 times this right here. You'll see this color B come through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you'll be ready to begin the thumb section. Go ahead and work those stitches, pause your video, and I'll meet you back at that point. Thanks. We'll see you soon. Okay, we're on the thumb section, and we're actually going to repeat 2 more rounds without any changes. So I've ended on my contrast B, I've ended on my contrast A, and now I need to purl and contrast A, and then I'm going to work my knit one below with contrast B. And just refer to your pattern, and you are going to, once you start the 3rd round, as you normally do, the 2nd time you're using the contrast B, you're going to work until you have 8 stitches left. So I'm actually going to meet you at that point where you're on your 3rd needle, so right before here, and we'll meet at that point there. Be sure and refer to your pattern as you need. All right, pause your video and I'll see you there. I've reached the last 8 stitches in my pattern, and that's for any of the sizes. And for the small and medium, we're going to bind off 6 of these 8 stitches loosely, and you'll bind off 7 if you're working the large one. So to bind that off, you're just going to knit 1, and then knit 2, and then lift up and over. Just a reminder, we have been working the purl stitch right before this, so this round leading up to this is still the purl row, which is like a round 3. So I've lifted up and over and I've bound that stitch off. I'm going to knit my next one. Let me do that a little slower. Knit the next stitch once. Okay, now that we've got the rhythm of binding off, we don't need to knit 2 in a row. So I've did that once, and we're going to lift this stitch that was previously knit and lift up and over, and that binds off another stitch. So that's 2 stitches. Let's do a third. Bind that off. And 4. Bind that off. And 5. And bind that off. And 6. All right, now we've already worked this stitch here, so we actually only need to work 1 more. Now, if you worked the larger size, then you're not going to have 1 left here, but you will have this big gap in here. So just going to work this last stitch, and this says purl to the end of row, so I'm just going to put my yarn to the front again and purl that stitch, and that ends that round. And now we want to complete our thumb by working our next color. So we're going to put our yarn to the back and pull our A towards the front here, and we're going to be well, not towards the front, we're just pulling it up underneath that previous color, and we're going to be working our first stitch. All right, so just going to knit 1 and then knit 1 below, and when we get to those bound off stitches, we're going to cast on. So continue working yours, pause your video, and I'll see you in a moment to show you how to work those. See you soon. All right, we're at the area where we need to add on for the top of our thumb. So we're going to cast on stitches here. This is that one needle that you've got that may have a few in the front and the end of it there. So we're just going to insert in and do our knit stitch and our knit 1 below. And then now we need to cast on. So we're going to use the thumb cast on. I'm just going to put my working yarn to the front here and pull it out so I can use it with my opposite hand. Pull it straight out like this, and then put my thumb down and twist around, and then put it on top of my needle. So this might be a little hard to see, so let me see if I can get this out here by itself so you can really see it. So I'm going to pull my working yarn out, put my thumb down, twist it around, and then scoop it up like that. So that's 2 stitches. I'm going to work until I have my right cast on. Small and medium, you're going to cast on 6, and the large, you're going to cast on 7. So I've got 5 here. Let me do one more time. So pull it out, put our thumb down, flip it around, and scoop it up, and put it on your needle. And then you're ready to finish out that row. All right, let's get these last 2 stitches. And if you had the large one, of course, you're not going to have as many to work here. And put my yarn behind my needle here, and we are going to knit to the end of the round. If you were on the large, you'll only have 1 stitch to do this on. So we're just going to knit 1 here, make sure that's nice and snug, and knit the last one. All right, and we're ready to move on. Now we're going to continue with our 4-round repeat. So we've got 4 rounds or rows that we'll do 1 time, and then a 2nd time, and then we'll go 2 more rounds. So you're actually going to do 10 rounds for the small, medium, and large sizes. Now, when you come around this next time, you are, of course, working with the same yarn. You've got to purl. So when you get to these cast on stitches, you want to make sure, and you're going through them and casting on, and then the round after, we're doing a knit 1 below, and you will have a little bit of a hard time seeing it. So I'm going to come around, I'm going to show you what it looks like to purl here, and then we'll pause again, and I'll show you what it looks like on the next round after to knit 1 below. So keep staying tuned if you want to see how to do that. Otherwise, I'll join you back up at the cuff area. Consult your pattern and check it off as you go along. All right, so we're going to begin again with the purl. So we're going to put our yarn to the front and start purling around. Pause your video, and I'll meet you back up at those cast on stitches there. All right, see you in a moment. All right, so we're going to continue. I've got a couple of stitches before my cast on stitches begin. All right, so we're going to purl our cast on stitches. Now, I have this long strand of yarn here right before this thumb cast on area, and that's okay. I'm just going to put my needle right on through, okay, and purl that stitch right there, just like you normally would. Okay, and I try not to pull too tight. I want to make sure that that stitch has a nice size to it. I'm going to purl that next stitch and just keep going. So even though it's long, it still will work out just fine. Just be nice and loose with your stitches. Try not to tug too much on these, or else you'll get like a long leading line between this edge here on this corner. And that's the corner of your thumb hole. All right, so just continue purling. So just, it looks trickier than it actually is. It might take a little bit of running your needle up along right where this yarn is twisted here, and make sure you get all the strands. I usually just guide it against my needle, the opposite hand. All right, so I've gotten all the way down to the end of this round. Oh, we got one more stitch. All right, so we're going to begin with our next color, and this is going to be in contrast B, where we knit one and knit one below. And it looks a little different when we get down to the top of the thumb hole here, just because it's so close. So go ahead and work till you get to this point, and I'll see you in a moment. All right, so I'm going to be knitting one and knitting one below. Now these first two stitches on my needle are really easy to see because they have got some knitting down below them, but right here is the difficult area. So we're still going to knit one as usual, and that's easy to see, but the knit one below is a little bit harder. So we're just going to look at the one that's our loop on our needle, and then go down to where it looks like the purl bump here, and just put your needle right in there, feel that purl bump, and go through till you see your needle come out the other side, and then yarn over and pull through that stitch, and it picks up both strands, and you can look at that and check it out, and then pop it right off the needle, and you're ready to go on to the next one. So you're just going to knit one and then knit one below. Same thing, we're going to go through this little purl bump here, make sure you're all the way through to the other side. And I have split my yarn. It doesn't usually do that, but there we go. All right, so yarn over, and we're just going to pull that right on through. Okay, and then we've got two more. Knit one below. All right, and then two left in this round. And your last stitch should be knit one below. Okay, and you can see how there's a little bit of slack here. We're just going to pull on that yarn, the working yarn, and it cinches that up nicely. All right, so you have now completed round 2 on the mitt top area. You want to finish rounds 3 and 4, and then that will complete one set of your zigzag pattern. You're going to want to complete a second set. So you're right here, you need to make the purl round on the same color, and then you're going to do another set, and then you'll do rounds 1 and 2, and you'll be ending just like this here after doing one of those knit one below rounds. And we'll meet back up for the cuff. All right, pause your video and I'll see you in a moment. So we're going to continue on with the ribbing section. You're going to continue in your color B and just keep working along. You're going to knit 2 and then purl 2. And you're just going to continue that along for 6 rounds. That's it. So 6 rounds, and then we are going to bind off in pattern. And you can go ahead and actually cut this contrast A here and leave a tail, and then you'll just weave that in later. So continue on until you get those 6 rounds, and I'll meet you back up and show you how to bind off in pattern. See you soon. To bind off in pattern, all you simply do is follow the pattern that is existing on your needles. So in this case, I have a knit 2, purl 2. So I'm going to work the knit stitches as knit and the purls as purls. In starting binding off, we work the first 2 stitches. So in this case, it's knit 2 stitches. Okay, and then we lift up and over from this first loop that we knitted, and up and over. And then we want to purl the next 2 stitches, or whatever you have on your needles at any time you're binding off in pattern. So we're just going to purl the stitch here, and now we're ready to lift the back loop up and over like this, and that binds off another stitch. Then the next one is going to be purl, so we're just going to purl that and lift up and over. So this is not actually knitting this stitch. What it is doing is making a chain that goes across the top, and the chain works back and forth in your pattern so that it is not it's not tight. It's a nice loose elastic type of edging. All right, so the next 2 stitches are knit stitches. So we're going to knit, lift up and over, and knit the second one, lift up and over. So you're going to continue to go all the way around, and then finish off the last stitch by pulling through, and I'll do that here in a moment. See you soon. And I'm on my last stitch, and it's a purl. Like before, we lift up and over. And then now you can just pull that on through and cut a tail. All right, so all you have left is this little jog, and then weaving in your tails here. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix this little jog here and make a nice complete cuff here. Put on your wide-eyed tapestry needle, or a bent tapestry needle. This one's obviously straight. So I'm going to go through the inside here, and you can see how I've got a chain at the top here. So this little chain here, and I can go around where this is coming out of my last stitch, go around and find the chain, and we'll just do this one right here. This seems to be the best spot. So we're going to go around this chain here to the outside, and then we're going to go to this chain here. So both parts of the stitch go in and around, and what it's doing is it's making its own little chain to complete. So when I pull that in, you see how it completes that chain look there. And then now we're just going to turn our mint inside out. Okay, and then I'm going to follow along this little column here, and when I follow my stitches along the column on the inside, it retains the stretchiness of the cuff. So we're just going to pull our stitch through on the back side here, and we're going to whip around all these stitches on the outside of the column. So outside, whip around, and then continue, and you can pull it out a little bit more to get some more seam. Then when you pull it through, you can see that this is retaining its stretchiness. It's not going to get stuck. So just continue working your stitches in this way, and then find your other tails where you cut them off and work them in. So you've got 2 here and then 2 down below. All right, so finish weaving those in, and I'll show you your complete mittens. See you soon. Well, here is our final mitt, and be sure to make your second one. So that is the medium that I made today, and be sure to check out the small and the large size. If you have not subscribed already, I would love to have you. We have new tutorials come out every Friday, and I would love to see you there. Be sure and subscribe and comment down below what would you like to see next at Good Knit Kisses. Catch our next video soon. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.